After we covered the basic functionalities of Excel, it's time to get to know Excel's pivot table. Imagine, this is your boss, this is you, and this is your colleague. Your boss just gave you this giant sheet of data. Your boss is very creative. She wants you to tell a story, the story of the data. So she asks you to create a list of reports. You start sweating, your heart is beating, you will have a sleepless night. And then you look at your colleague and she's smiling. Apparently, she's already done it. Luckily, she knows the pivot table. Pivot tables automatically summarize your data. It doesn't require any complex formulas, just a simple drag and drop. In this video, we're going to show you how to build a pivot table. So this is the set of data that was given to us. We'll use it to create our pivot table. Let's call it our data source. Now, before you start building your pivot table, in order to tell the story of the data, it's a good idea to familiarize yourself with your data source. Take a look at what you might be interested in and how you want to summarize this data. In this case, the data was imported from a CRM system and it contains the sales data for years 2013 and 14. Each row contains information about a sale, country, units sold, profit, and so on. Another thing you want to do before creating your pivot table is to make sure you have a row of headers at the top of the data source. Each header describes the column of data below. You also want to make sure you have no blank cells or blank rows. Once our data looks good, we can go ahead and start. Just select one of the cells inside the data source, go to the Insert tab, and click on the Pivot Table button. That will bring up this Create Pivot Table window, which asks us to select the table or range of cells. Now, since I already selected a cell, it automatically detected the range for me. If it doesn't, just click this button and select your range. The next step is to choose where we want to put the pivot table. In this case, I'll put it on a new worksheet. This automatically created a new sheet. On the left-hand side, you can see the pivot table area. On the right-hand side, a list of fields from our data source. This is the window we will use to build the pivot table. Down below is the areas that we can drag the fields into to create the report. So I want my report to show the profit of each country. The first thing I'm going to do is find the country. I can either check the box or drag it. You'll notice now that each row contains a country. Now let's add the profit. You can see that Excel has automatically calculated the sum of profit for each country that's listed. And this is the real power, the magic of the pivot table, that it calculated the summary for the field that I've dragged into the values area. Let's get a better understanding of what actually happened here. So we can see France with a profit of $3,781,020 in the pivot table. If I go back to the data source and I filter the country to France, we can see that the profit is the same. So the pivot table has done the filter and the calculation for each country. And I can add any field I want. Here's another example. I will add the product. Now Excel has calculated the profit of each product within each country. To summarize, here's a diagram that shows where each of the areas goes within a standard pivot table. Congratulations! We've just created a pivot table. If you're interested in taking your pivot tables to the next level, click the link below, Creating Diagrams and Dashboards.